What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to the Wild Ones podcast. I am your host, Chris Cox, and this is where we work in our love daily. And here at the Wild Ones, we want to bring awareness. We want to give flowers to those who work in the community, those who work in the nonprofit space, those who are teachers, who have found a way to use their passion as a profession. And today we have a wonderful guest, Miss Jenny Lee, who is a 20-year teacher. So that's kudos among itself, being an educator for 20 years. She's inspired caretakers to be aware of their own self-care after the realization of how her own lack of self-care has put her on the wrong path. So Miss Jenny Lee is here today to talk about the power of self-care and what led her down this road and what led her to this podcast, and in definitely being a wild one, someone who works in their love daily. So welcome Miss Jenny Lee to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Chris. I love your title for the podcast, The Wild One. And yeah, when you're in love, you're wild. I love it.
I can't take full credit for it. I totally stole it from it's a song by Alessia Cara, and it's called The Wild Ones. And if you listen to the lyrics, I challenge anybody's listening, go find the lyrics for The Wild Ones. And it is like a community organizers or like a nonprofit's manifesto. Like it's really all about doing the work because you love to do it, finding the passion and do it, and not waiting for someone else to tell you it's okay to do it. And so I happened to be on a drive from Lincoln, Nebraska, back home to Lexington, Nebraska. So it's a 2-hour drive. And I kind of listened to the song the first way, and I was like, I started listening to the lyrics. You know, you're by yourself, you listen to the lyrics. And so I kind of put it on repeat for like 2 hours. And then that's where I came up with the name for the podcast. So can't take the full credit for
Wow.
it.
Hey, but that's for you. Sounds like it was meant for you.
It does. It really did. Like it really struck a chord with me when I listened to it. And I figure a lot of people who are in our profession, who work in nonprofits or who work solely for the betterment of other people, you have to love what you're doing. Like you're not in it for the profit, because it's not the big bucks in what we're doing. You're in it solely for the love. And I just thought about it. Well, working in love daily, wild one. There you go. And it just stuck. And so thank you. I really like the title, and I'm glad you like it as
You too.
well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, what you're saying really brought me thinking of why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? Because I was at a point in my life, because I was always living in this trauma response. Um, everything that I was doing, I hated. Everybody that was around me, I did not like. And I had such bad relationships with people around me because I was exhausted. I was not taking care of myself. I was depleted. And that was magnified, especially after the birth of my son. And I became a mother and I wasn't sleeping. And there's like all these expectations of how hard life is supposed to be, and all these expectations on women of, what you should do to look good as a mother, right? Deplete
Mm.
yourself, break your body, and then oh, you're such a noble mother. Well, that's pretty much how I was raised, because that's how I was watching my mother and how she raised us. And because of that, it was creating a negative environment, traumatizing environment for me and my sister who were growing up. And I grew up in Indonesia, and women are expected to be a certain way, and there's like this map of life for them, right?
Yeah.
Maybe finish school and college, get married, be a good mother, and how they're supposed to look and all of that. And that was very misaligning. That was really separating me from my true self, because after I moved to the US, I was still carrying that expectation. And it was just not working very well with me. And self-separation means you're separated from the joy of who you are, from the happiness
Yeah.
that you are from your soul completely, right? And I think that's what got me to that dark night of the soul, which I think a lot of people, most people, probably get their enlightenment when it's the darkest of their life. So that led to, so that moment when things just wasn't working and my life crumbled, um, and I got a divorce. I got out of the house that I was living in with my former husband, and we had split custody. And me being in a new place and I didn't have anybody to take care of, right? Because before
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a mother still, and I was also a teacher. I was also the cook. I was also the cleaner. I was also, like the homemaker that would come back from teaching and take care of my son and teach my son again, right? Teacher like twice. So it's all like very emotionally, physically, and spiritually draining. But then because of that experience, that catapulted me into a new place where I was on my own. I had to listen to what I needed. I had to listen to my body. I had to just be with myself and get to know myself again. And and that time, I still did not like my job. Like I hated the mornings because I did not like my life. I mean, yeah, if it's a life, if it's a job that you don't like waking up to, it's hard in the morning, right?
Yes.
But at some point, um, I woke up too early and it was still a depressing morning. um, I was dragging myself, but okay, I'm awake already anyway. So what because it was just too long of me in this hamster wheel of depressive mood, right? And instinctively, I just turned on some music and instinctively I started moving my body. And that was the start of everything. It was just like 3 minutes, like, hey, that actually felt good. All right, maybe I'll do that again tomorrow. And so the next morning, I started again. Then, okay, why don't I just wake up a little early tomorrow, maybe 10 minutes, so I could dance to one or two songs, right? And so that's actually what changed my life, how it put me on this path of finding joy. And you know what? When you're already on that, that's your reason, then the purpose of life is really to enjoy life, to just dance and enjoy the dance without having to get somewhere, right? And
Yeah.
that's the point of you doing what you love because you're enjoying life in the process. It's not work anymore.
And always remember that that saying, if you do what you love, then you never work a day in your life, you know.
Yeah.
And it is very true. It's very true. And only with one caveat, I say you still work, you just don't mind the work because you love it. So you
Yes.
love the work. And
Yeah.
what I found so interesting in what you're saying is I'm a parent too. I have two children. I have an 11-year-old girl who's going on 18, who's going on 25, and then I have a 9-year-old son. And one, you don't want to think of kids as a distraction. But
Hmm.
what they don't tell you in the, oh, be a parent, being a parent is so great, is that you do lose yourself because you come completely engrossed in this little life, making
Hmm.
sure they eat, making sure they go to sleep, making sure they take a bath, making
Hmm.
sure they have all of their clothes on when they go to school, and all those little things, and helping with the homework and teaching them this and teaching them right from wrong
Yeah.
and talking to them and giving them all this, trying to pour as much life into them as you can. You forget you need to fill your own cup.
Hmm.
And so hearing you saying, oh, I didn't have anybody in my new space, not to say, oh, they're a distraction. You didn't have anyone else's cup to fill but yourself. And
Hmm.
then so you were able to feel rejuvenated because you finally got to fill your own cup with dancing,
Yes.
with music, with getting ready. And so that's what made you feel better. And
Exactly.
And I think that was a very good point when you said that. And more adults or parents, I think, feel guilty or they grapple with that aspect of
Yes.
it of, well, should I do this for me?
Yeah, I completely understand what you mean about feeling guilty because that's what a lot of parents or women, mothers, right? Well, you need to take care of yourself because you're obviously exhausted, but I don't have time for that. I don't have the money for that. Or when they do that, they would feel guilty because there was a point when I caught myself feeling guilty taking a nap, right? And oh, okay, I got busy doing this, maybe cleaning, and then I fed my son a little late, like maybe 20 or 30 minutes late. It's like, oh my God, I'm such a bad mother. So it's like you're already exhausted and you're beating yourself up because you're not meeting certain expectations. And that happens a lot. Uh, but I can come back to the morning routines and how that led me to meeting myself again.
Mm,
And so from the 10 minutes that I enjoyed, in which I enjoyed the music and the movement. And because I had so much fun from the 10 minutes, it kind of grew to 15 minutes a couple of weeks later. And then I thought, wow, I'm having so much fun. I want to do this a little longer. And so it's 20 minutes a couple of weeks later, right? Then I learned about challenges. Yeah. Why can't I just add maybe 5 minutes of doing some challenge, maybe some challenging yoga moves or dance moves. So I added 3 to 5 more minutes so I could learn that. And I learned about juicing. And a month later, I added 15 to 20 minutes so I could juice and wash the appliances. And then I learned about meditation and breath work and ice cold shower and all other stuff like all the varieties, right?
yes.
Whatever that feels nourishing and uplifting, really. It's all me nourishing myself emotionally. And then, what change is? Back in the day when I hated my job, well, I was also a teacher, I still am. But the way that I showed up at work was more, I'm gonna just come to work, get the kids to do their work, submit my lesson plans, take my paycheck, and go home, right? There's this hamster wheel of monotony and this mundane, sad life, right? It was being there for too long could really eat you up, from the inside. And that's what happened to me. But then with that practice, it was me putting myself first. I was showing up for myself first, giving myself the happiest thing, the happiest activity that I could do that, um, what would you call that? Nourishing the soil, that is me, so
Yes.
that, those are the seeds of happiness and joy, and that becomes um, just beautiful trees with nourishing food, right? Nourishing fruits that I could give to everybody else around me, right? And so how that changed really, um, because the question was in the morning, that point when I was depressed was, how can I make this better? How can I make this more fun for myself? It was the dance, it was the music. And so that became the question when I come to work, when I'm lesson planning, how can I make this lesson fun?
Mm,
And because I'm already happy and nourished emotionally, I'm already uplifted, mood wise, my relationships with the students became so much better. And like everything changed. They're so much more receptive to my teaching, and actually enjoy finding ways to make my lessons fun, and I enjoy my interactions with the kids. And so things just got better and better. And honestly, I still have the same job. It's still in Hartford, Connecticut,
mm,
and inner city school where the kids come from environments that are rough.
yeah.
There's violence and drug problems, and a lot of the kids come to school depleted and they need so much love. At that point, when I was exhausted, I could not give that love and attention. But now it's like they open up to me so easily. We build such great relationship. And the environment outside of me is the same. But what changed really is me, right? And here it is, like, I am now this happier individual with a lot to give.
Yeah.
It's like 180 degrees, right?
You definitely you reignited your passion. Like you said, you reignited your passion and now you can share your passion in your profession. And so as you took care of your soil, as you grew your tree, as it produced fruits, everyone else gets to nourish off of that too. And I'm
Yes.
from New York, so I know Connecticut. I have a lot of friends that moved out from Connecticut or moved out to Connecticut, and I grew up in New York City. So I was
Oh,
born in
nice.
Harlem, and I grew up in the Bronx and in between Brooklyn, and hung out in Queens, and so I understand exactly what you say.
Yeah.
And finding a good teacher that didn't feel like they were sentenced to be there from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Hmm.
was such a rarity that you know who the good teachers were because all the kids flock to them, regardless of their kid that has, troubles in school, or regardless if they're an athlete, regardless if they're a straight A student, whatever it is, all the kids flock to the teacher that genuinely cares about them in their presence. And so being able to find that within yourself to then bring that to your students and then understand that you didn't need to seek a new job. You didn't need to seek a new environment. You just needed to change how you process things inwardly.
Exactly.
And that's such a hard thing for anyone to do. And regardless if they hit rock bottom or not. So kudos
Mhm.
to you for finding that space, looking into that abyss and saying, this is what I need to change. That's awesome. I do want to ask you, I want to kind of go back and ask you this. And as an Asian American woman, do you think that some of those compounded with just being a mom in the world and compounding at the time with just being a wife, do you think the way you were raised, your nationality, your ethnicity also added more to that compounding weight on you
Yeah.
as what to be as a mom or what to, outwardly what you should be as a mom or what you should be even at home as a wife? Could you talk about
Oh,
that as much as you feel comfortable talking
yeah, yeah,
about that?
absolutely. So I grew up in the conservative Asian culture, and that is the combination of Indonesia, which is predominantly Muslim, conservative, right? And I also come from Chinese family, who's also very conservative. And I also went to Catholic school and Catholic church.
Wow.
So all that combination of the shaming, the taboo, and the prescription of what it is, what it means to be human for them is to observe the culture, to observe the rules, to observe the tradition, right? So the members of the culture, the religion that I grew up with expected me to, of course, observe some codes, um, and that pretty much took out everything that is authentic.
Hmm.
Because every time I tried to express myself, I would be beaten back to this box of conformity. No, this is not, you're not going to be what you want because that's not what you're born for. You're born in this family, you're born into this culture, you are going to continue the tradition. So yeah, I was raised pretty much being reminded of what I can't do. I was raised to be like, this woman, a good wife, a good mother, and the conditions of good mother so that you are accepted by the culture so that we don't give you a hard time and then you have an easier life. Like
Yeah.
these are the things that you should do, right? I think I mentioned that earlier, like, what it needs to be. And so, because of that, I just forgot who I really am. I forgot who I was, right? And it is by um, getting the divorce, stepping out of that culture, out of that environment, I got to be with myself again. I get to reconnect with myself again through my morning routines. And I was reminded again what it is like to be happy because for the first time, I'm actually doing what I feel like. I wasn't just like running around trying to please everybody else but me. And I think that's the expectations, that's the obligations of, people who belong in certain culture or religion, right? They forget who they are because they work so hard in order to get approval.
Mm.
And in the process, yeah, and all of the rat race and chasing money and status and all of that, you just your authenticity fades in the process. And that's what happened to me. And that was the root of my suffering, really. And so by spending more time with myself and reconnected with who I really am, with my joy and with my happiness, that led me to a bigger understanding of what life is supposed to be. And you know what I'm doing right now, even as a teacher, right? It is satisfying because it's full of beautiful relationships with my students, with my colleagues. But when you're separated from yourself, right, nothing is ever enough. Nothing makes you happy. But when you are more integrated, when you've accepted who you are, and start changing that lens to the lens of joy, the lens of positivity, it's like, hey, everything can be really good starting at this point. Because when you're in your happiness, when you're in your joy, you're having fun, you're present. And there's so much happiness and love in the present, right?
Yes,
But
that's great. That is,
yeah.
I'm excited. Like I'm pumped up. Like I feel like I am rejuvenated or invigorated, and I feel like I have a pretty good morning routine. Like I wake up and get ready, I go work out, take my kids to school. But listening to you, it really it's feeding my soul. So I do hope that our listeners, when they get a chance to listen to you, that the passion of how you speak, it's coming through the microphone, it's coming through the computers. I hope you know that, because the
Mm,
pure joy that you're feeling or experiencing it's permeating, because I feel it. And you said that, I think you said it the best way. You said when you find yourself and you take care of yourself, and
mhm,
then you realize the joy that's around you. And, once you find that joy and once you live in that, then you live in the present, you live in the right now. And that's the best
yeah.
way to treat yourself and the best way to treat other people. Because a lot of times we are constantly living in a past hurt, in a
Mhm,
past trauma, and that directly affects or informs what we do and how we behave and how we act. And moments we can live in the present, but it seems like you have found the key that allows you to live in the present constantly. And it has afforded you this glow, this passion, this love, this genuine happiness. And I think that's amazing. And I would ask is, and I think I may know the answer, but as you've been able to find yourself and find what makes you you and what makes you happy, those past relationships, have they been just left in the past, or have they changed in a way that they have acknowledged your happiness in a positive way?
mm. Yeah, that's an interesting question because those relationships in the past, there, when you're when you have a relationship with someone, there are certain expectations of or this idea in the heads of the people that you had relationships with and what you should be, right? And right now, because I'm a completely different person, I'm not this person with the old standards and way of life anymore. And we just don't really vibe the same way anymore. And it's okay because I am now emanating such better energy, right? I I'm happier, I'm more joyful. On my journey, I'm also meeting a lot of happier and joyful people, and people like you right now, right? I think I attract this kind of people in my life, and so it's okay to just like let go, because it's just not you anymore.
Good. That's why I thought I knew the answer, but I wanted to make sure because I wanted people to hear that. Because sometimes I think we also get stuck that we find ourselves, we feel good, then it goes back to we still kind of feel guilty that we feel good and somebody else doesn't. And I think it's okay that once you find yourself and you start feeling better and you realize you and this other circle of people aren't really seeing the same way, aren't
Hmm.
vibing the same way, it's okay to allow your joy to take you to a better circle where the
Yes.
joy is respected, the joy is taken care of, the joy is celebrated. And it's okay to do that, to grow and move into that space. And sometimes people don't feel like it's okay. They're like, well, I still got to make sure I'm checking in with them. I'm like, but they're not in the same space as you. And you need to find people
Yeah.
that are in your space.
Because my parents, my family
Mm,
still belong to that kind of mindset. And so there's definitely this big gap. But I think this is also the lesson for my family. That is the lesson of acceptance. Um, and before, it was more me, try to please them. And because of that, it was on the expense of my life, of my authenticity. But now that I learned that it's not worth all of that kind of people pleasing, like nothing is worth your sacrificing your own true self, right? And so it is a process. There's a lot of fights because of, they're disapproving. But in the end, something that I also learned when you love someone because, could be because they're family and you want to maintain that relationship, acceptance is really the biggest key, like the key to all of this. If you can't accept it, then I guess that, relationship is gone. But if you want to maintain this relationship, us as a family, there has to be an understanding. There has to be love. There has to be acceptance, right? And because of that, well, their horizon also expanded because they have more understanding now, right, of
yes.
who I am as a person. And I'm growing, and so should you if you want to keep up with me. You know what I mean?
No, that's awesome. You're breaking generational curses or generational cycles because
Ah,
your son is going to be seeing that it's okay to be himself. And so
mm,
now it won't necessarily be that disconnect between you and him, hopefully, because he'll be okay to
mm,
be himself and you'll be okay to accept him and whatever it is. So then if he decides to have a family of his own, that's not going to be an issue anymore.
mm,
So by just starting up and just instinctively putting on some music, you have changed along with working and doing everything else. You've changed the trajectory of
yeah.
what your family accepts and doesn't accept and how they process things. So it's so powerful. One small step, like they always say, a ripple, just throw a pebble in the pond
Ah,
and the ripples that
that's
go.
awesome point.
It's very, very powerful when you think about that because that one
Yes.
ripple of I'm going to wake up and put on some music has put you in this space where, like I said, you are breaking negative generational cycles in
Wow.
your family.
Ooh, I got
So
chills.
I'm out here preaching today, preaching to the microphone. Um,
Yeah, preach, brother. Love it.
But no, I wanted to say that because I wanted to let you know that, and just in case no one's ever told you or that hasn't come up, that is what you're doing because you're changing your parents and forcing them to understand that there is a different way to think. But then you're also role modeling for your son that it's okay to be different. You don't have to be forced to change. You can just
Mm,
change or be who you want, and that is okay. And people, you know, acceptance, whether you get it or not, does not decide who you are. You can be who you are with and without the acceptance. So
mhm.
again, that's beautiful. So I wanted to say that just in case no one's ever
Wow,
said
that's
that, so you can
powerful.
hear that. You gotta be able to hear that one time. That's the whole purpose of the show is being able to give that kudos to us, to our people, to everyone who is in this type of lifestyle because we don't hear it. And we tend to hear it 20 years down the road. You retire from teaching after 40 years or so. Then they'll say, oh, Mr. Lee, she was so great. She did such a great job with these kids and she poured life into them. Well, you know what? It'd be really nice if Miss Lee heard that 20 years ago. If she heard it 30 years ago, because then that's how people continue to do what they do. That's how people continue to make an impact on others. That's how they continue to make ripples in the
Mhm.
pond. So I
Yeah.
wanted to shout you out. Take a quick second and just shout that out for you before my next question.
Ah, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. This is the
Wow.
space to do it. That's what this is. This is the space to do it.
And I
Um,
accept it
uh, my thank you.
with gratitude.
Yes, awesome. My next question is we've talked about you. We've talked about how you filled your cup. We're talking about how you're filling your son's cup and how you're changing perspectives with your parents. How has your journey, how have you been able to mold that? Now this is kind of like shameless promotion side. How are you able to mold that? And I know we mentioned earlier you work with mothers in the community,
Mhm.
women in the community. Can you explain a little bit more about that and then how your personal transformation led you to start sharing that with women and mothers in the community?
Oh yeah. Well, at first I started with um just giving out free challenges, like a 3-day challenge, a 5-day challenge of how to make your morning fun because the research really is because I thought that my achievement, at that point when I suddenly um discovered that wow, I actually have 2 hours of morning routines now for the last few months. This is crazy, right? Compared to back then
Mhm.
because I grew up hating the mornings with passion because I was going to Catholic school, right, growing up, and I would, wake up to punishments basically at school because, corporal punishments and like I was never good enough. And then I kind of carried that energy, not liking waking up to the job that, that I was supposed to go to. And then being a mother, it was so hard to wake up in the morning when all I did was just taking care of everybody else but me, right? And the
Yeah.
job and all that. And so I was thinking, wow, this is amazing. I actually love the morning now. How is that even, right? And so I started holding, these challenges, getting people together and talk about how you could actually make your mornings easy and fun. Because then something that I realized is that if you want to start a new habit, it's really important to make that habit really easy and fun. And so I was holding these challenges to just anybody, right, with maybe difficulty sleeping or, how they could just wake up easier in the morning and be more productive because there's all of these books by, say, Robin Sharma or James Clear's, all talking about, you know, if you wake up 2 hours early, like, 5 in the morning, like, 5 a.m. club, then you'll change your life, you'll transform. Yeah, but like if you told me, say, 5 years ago, and I was like this depleted mom, wake up 2 hours early tomorrow and go to the gym or like do it's like that's not going to be sustainable, that's not going to work with me. And so the bridge that I found between that early morning wake up and somebody who keeps pressing the snooze button, right? Is the fun, the ease, the transition. And so start 10 minutes first, then 15 minutes but you need to ask yourself, you need to be honest with yourself instead of thinking of what I should do. What makes you the happiest in those 10 minutes so that the next morning you're excited to wake up to that. And then the next morning you're eager to do that again, right? And that's really the key. And so that kind of evolved into me focusing on women because that's really the population that's the most in need of self-care because a lot of women nowadays are expected to be everything, their job, their business, and they still have to come home, take care of the family. They're still the homemaker, and a lot of them are breadwinners. And oftentimes their needs are at the bottom of the list. Um, that really, I really related with that. And so that kind of became the population that I enjoy working with because I relate with them so strongly. And and also the process is so rewarding. That visible change is so rewarding to me, knowing that, okay, they actually learned something. And so, yeah, that's the work that I do.
And how did they find you? So, or did you put these challenges out just via like social media or at
Yeah,
first, and then everyone just you're just getting followers and people wanting to do it, and then so now you just have
absolutely.
like a do you just have like a client list now or
Um, so at this point, I am building a structure to monetize my business. So right now, I'm actually doing this mostly for free. And for your audience, I offer like this free 30-minute coaching on how you could start your morning in a fun way, the most joyful way, starting tomorrow. So I could give you the link uh, um, to schedule something with me
yes,
and we could
please
chat and
do.
connect.
Please
Yes,
put the link in there.
absolutely. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's pretty much when you said um, doing what you love, doing it with joy. I think the joy that I find here is through the connection, meeting new people, right? It's like, oh, hi, they're here because they want to be a better version of themselves. And I'm right here, to help you with that. And yeah, the little shifts, um, that's probably what gives me the most joy, knowing that, oh, you've done, I've done something that starts that ripple
Yeah,
effect, right? So yeah, everybody could do something that with that effect.
that's
I found
awesome. Yeah,
mine.
that's great. I'm definitely gonna put your links in everything that I post once this episode comes out. So please, if you're in the Connecticut area, the Hartford, Connecticut area, if not, because social media in some ways it can drive us apart, but in some really positive ways it brings us together regardless of where we are. So regardless of where you are, if you are someone that just wants to figure out right now, how do I get up 10 minutes early? Like, how do I get
Mhm.
up 15 minutes early? So don't think of the whole picture. Like Jenny said, don't think of, oh, I got to get up 2 hours and I got to be super productive. And I got just, how do I get up 10 minutes earlier and, read 10 minutes of a book, watch 10 minutes of a TV show, listen to a couple of songs, make myself my own breakfast or whatever it may be. Like you said, find the fun in the joyful reason to get you up that 10 minutes. Please hit up Jenny Lee. Please contact the links. And hopefully, you are listening to this and you are finding more inspiration to do something like that, to find that joy. And
Hmm.
then before I go into the last shameless plug of your stuff, because I always like to give everyone on my show, plug your stuff relentlessly because I want everyone to get what they are worth for the knowledge and the expertise that they have. And I want to finish off with a couple of questions, and this might be a hard one. Sometimes it's an emotional one. Is if we had a time machine and you could go back in time to any point in your life, at any age in your life, what age would you pick and what will you tell yourself?
Mm. So I am picturing like my younger self, and then there's the adult me and my adult self talking to the younger me. Is that,
Yes. Yes.
yeah?
Like what, like right now, if you could hop in a time machine, what age would you go back to? Like, I think I would go back to 16 and tell myself a lot of stuff. But what age would you go back to? And then what would you tell that age, that version of yourself?
Probably 6 or 7.
Mm,
That's when I started learning about rejection
okay.
because I was just different. Um, and I would tell myself that my little self that it's okay, do your own thing. And if I had known then, right, I wouldn't have. But you know what? Maybe it doesn't matter because it is from the self-separation I found myself again. And that's the journey, right?
Okay.
That's like the biggest lesson. But still, as a child, I was so lonely. So I would just want to be with that child. And, you know, it doesn't matter. You could still do your own thing. You could still be yourself. Yeah, that's what I would tell myself.
Awesome. And then lastly, what I want you to do is tell everyone where they can find you. Cause I'm also, you have a podcast. Is that correct?
I do not.
Okay.
I do want to launch one pretty well, hopefully within the month or something. I'm just still debating on the specific idea, the theme. I've just been kind of juggling, well, not really, just kind of going back and forth between, okay, should that be about morning routine or I love traveling, but like, I love stories. And it's like, what am I supposed to like, how do I blend it? But I'm probably just overthinking it.
And sometimes we do. Sometimes it's just got to press record. But I want you to tell everybody where they can find you at on social media or
Oh, yeah.
how, give everybody details, how they can find you, how they can access a free 30-minute coaching
Mhm.
session with you. This is, I mean, the show has been your spotlight, but please take this time to let everybody know how to get in touch with you.
Yeah. On Instagram, you could find me at Sunny Jenny Lee. Just one word, Sunny Jenny Lee. And I also have a Facebook page and also a Facebook group especially for it's called Burnout Mom Support. So I'm going to send you the links to all of those things and including my the scheduling to meet for half an hour with me, and that would be great. Yeah, I hope I answered your question.
No, that was great. So everybody, so you're listening, go to Instagram, Sunny Jenny Lee, go to Facebook, Sunny Jenny Lee, get on the scheduler and take the opportunity to work with somebody who really genuinely loves what they're doing. Because a lot of times there's a lot of information out there, and we see someone that has a really catchy, Facebook ad or an Instagram ad, like, oh, yeah, I want to work with that person. But they may not really be in it for your growth. They may be in it for their monetary growth.
Mm,
And Jenny, you are very authentic and awesome. And I think even if you got paid, that wouldn't change. So please tap in with Jenny and uh, really work to change and update yourself as best as you can.
yeah, that's really awesome. And I think the bigger picture that I'm looking at here is for us to always want to be in our joy and our happiness, right?
Yes.
And when you start your day early in the morning, when your brain is most malleable, the most impressionable, and you put happy thoughts with the things that you're going to do, with gratitude, um, hey, you got to start small to be happy because happiness is a habit. You want to be a happier person? Start there, start small, and then it will snowball. And without you knowing it, you're just like, this happy person with a completely different lens that you use to look at the world. It's going to be the lens of joy and love and happiness.
I
So,
love that. Happiness is a habit. I do love that.
mhm.
I That's going to be the title of this episode. Happiness is a habit. I That is going to be the title. So I'm going to kind of borrow that and steal that from you.
Yeah, do that.
Um, but Jenny, it's been an amazing experience having you on the Wild Ones podcast. You are definitely a wild one. You are definitely someone who works in their love daily. You are welcome back on the show anytime. And I do hope we can catch up
Thank you.
down the road. And hopefully the business adventure and everything is popping off and you're doing wonderful. But to my listeners and to you, again, this is the Wild Ones podcast. We're here with Jenny Lee. She's definitely working in her love daily. And then here at the Wild Ones, we wish you love, we wish you peace and happiness. Peace.
Peace.